Hello everyone and welcome to Writing Quest. My name is Brendan, and in this episode we are going to be discussing the magic system. Alright, so if you've been following the channel for a while, you might have seen this video where me and Aiden discussed the magic system. Everything in that video is wrong and false, and everything in it is a ginormous mess because we have completely revamped it and made it way better. If you want to watch it, I would watch it because it helps explain how we got to where we are now. So here we are. So we're talking about magic, and magic to me, as you know, has been one of the, magic systems. It's just so hard for me. And I know that I really like Brandon Sanderson's Laws of Magic. I think they're great. It's just hard. It's hard for me. And when Aiden and I would write, anytime we've ever talked about story, that's always been the one thing where I'm just like, well, it just works. And he's always like, does it just work? What about this? He rightfully questions. Anyways, the good news is we've had epiphanies about the magic system, and I'm so excited to share with you. We've got it all figured out, I think. I say that cautiously because you never know. So when we started this story, if you remember, it was the idea that it's kind of the beginning of time, and it's the beginning of this brand new story. Well, the problem with that is you can't really go back to the beginning of time, I don't think. I think it's just too hard. There's always the question of where everyone comes from. So ultimately, the magic system is kind of the beginning of time for our story. So we're going to I think what I'm going to do is I've had this idea for an updated prologue, which if you've read our prologue, it starts with these two brothers, Gain and Gorath, being in this new land, and they discover the wolves, and it's this whole thing. Well, I'm going to add a part to the beginning of that that's kind of like the history leading up to it. I think it's going to be really cool to have it kind of in my head as like a vision that one of the characters has. But, so this is kind of the gist of it. So magic is going to kind of be the eternal being. It's this thing that's always around. It's never had a beginning and an end. It's the God figure, essentially. And then there's going to be the earth, which is where the darkness is. So there's going to be this magic. This magic is existing with the darkness, but it's just there. Nothing can really interact with it, all that stuff. The darkness, the earth, is ruled by what we come to find out be the Wraithwalkers, and it's just chaos and mess and all sorts of craziness. So magic manifests itself as the Evertree, which we've talked about a lot. And the Evertree is the physical incarnation of magic. So that's what magic chose to become. The Evertree creates the wolves to become its guardians of light. So it creates the wolves to start bringing order to the chaos as an antithesis to the Wraithwalkers and push them back. Magic is much more powerful than the chaos and the darkness that has been around before, and so it begins to bring order to this world that we live in. So ultimately, the wolves and the Evertree find a way to lock away the Wraithwalkers, and they put it all away. So they then create humans. They create humans, and then they allow them to flourish on the land. The wolves and the Evertree kind of fade into legend. They kind of retreat, and they say, we held back the darkness, and they give it to these humans to start cultivating and turning it into a habitable world to grow and become whatever they become. So that's what happens. So this society grows up. It becomes this amazing, great thing. They start to, build a society and do all that stuff. In the meantime, though, what happens is and we're going to get to the point of why this all matters. The Wraithwalkers, who aren't away, they're not gone forever. They're just held back by the magic that is the Evertree. So the Wraithwalkers eventually figure out a way to twist the Evertree and make it sick, which ultimately leads us to the beginning of our story, where the Wraithwalkers begin over a long period of time to take back over and push the humans to near extinction. Okay, so at the beginning of our story, the Wraithwalkers and the Evertree both have kind of fallen into legend, but Agorath and Gaian are two brothers who are tasked and know the story. It's been passed down generation to generation. They're attempting to find the Evertree. That's their goal. They need to find the Evertree so that they can eventually refight back the darkness. All of that to be said, how does this relate to how the magic system works? Well, so if the Evertree is the physical version of magic, everything in the universe, in this universe, has magic based on its relationship to the Evertree. For instance, the wolves are made of the Evertree, so they cannot be corrupted. They are deeply connected to the Evertree. The hunters, which our story will produce, and then eventually they're the subject of a later book, they have a limited magic where they can control the elements of earth, wind, fire, air, that kind of thing, in partnership with a wolf. And their power is directly related to how great their relationship is. So the stronger their bond, the more powerful they can become in the element that they control. The reason for this is that the hunters have no real connection to the Evertree. They have no actual... the only way that they have magic is by partnering with a wolf who does have a direct connection to the Evertree, and then by walking along together in partnership does their magic and power grow. The Magi, or the humans in this example, they will eventually become the Magi, the Evertree at some point, I haven't quite figured out how this all works yet, but they'll be gifted parts of the Evertree. So like Agorath has a staff, and that staff is made from the Evertree. So the Evertree, because he's using a physical part of the Evertree, he has a really strong, powerful magic to basically control matter of any kind. He can make a shield, he can move stuff, he can basically have almost unlimited power because he has a direct piece of the Evertree, except that use of said magic breaks down and destroys the piece of the Evertree that he has. So he has to use it cautiously. So he can wield almost infinite power, but his staff will burn up and disappear. So that's essentially how that works. The Wraithwalkers are the antithesis to magic. They're the evil, right? So they cannot approach the Evertree. They're in this eternal battle of, good versus evil, the yin and the yang, all that kind of stuff, right? And then, of course, there's the different versions of, I haven't quite worked out how it works for all the elves and dwarves and all that kind of stuff, but I think the elves will probably end up being some sort of they're just in community with the Evertree or with nature, so that grants them some kind of limited mysticism of some kind. They can't really do a lot, but they can do a little bit of stuff. And then, of course, dwarves and humans, like regular humans, would not have any kind of magic. So that's kind of how it works for me. The magic is kind of like how a being has magic is how they are in direct relationship to the Evertree, and the limitations and the amount of power and all of that. That's where all the limitations, everything come from. So that's what makes, so when we get kind of into our third trilogy, if you saw how I used Notion video, you saw that we have quite a few stories outlined, and I'm really excited about that. But basically that's where that the struggle of a later stories is the struggle between the Magi and the Hunters, and they are good enemies for each other, because while the Magi have this unlimited power, they have to have a piece of the Evertree, whereas the Hunters have a more limited scope of their power, but they have an unlimited resource of their power, so they're going to run out of it. So one of my characters can manipulate fire. He can do that indefinitely, but it's not as strong as, say, what a Agorath could do with his staff. So that kind of makes it, kind of an even pairing, works out. When I originally wrote the story, I didn't really have all this worked out as well, and so it really just kind of broke down, because some characters were super overpowered and some, it just didn't make any sense. And because of Aiden, he pushed me to work this all out, and I'm really grateful he did because I think it's going to work out really well. So ultimately, that's the breakdown of Magic in its complete form. So if you want to, please watch Magic Systems Part 1 if you want to see where this all came from and see us in our craziness that we just don't have any clue what we're doing. And then this is the new Magic System. So going forward, if you're reading the book or if you're checking things out, this is the best explainer, and I'm really excited about writing that new prologue section, so keep an eye out for that, which is going to probably start as like a vision of the visual history and then ending up with what we already have. So anyways, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, comment if you have any questions. If you want, please check out our writing tips. Check out all of our other videos. You can do that at any point. We would love to hear from you, so do that. If you haven't checked out the Wattpad, please check that out. It's being updated almost daily with all the new writing. We are literally posting it as we write it. So as I write in the morning, I post it right away. So it's as fresh as you can get it. It's a really fun way to figure out the process, be a part of the process with us. You can also follow us on Instagram, all those kinds of places. And we'll see you next time. Huzzah!